Corporation admin building. Can we please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fayette Central.
Yeah, Mrs. Phillips?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present our math team. I'm just going to do some introductions very quickly. We have two of our lead mathematicians, Noah Frost and Ryder Runyon. We also have our two coaches, Lauren Hafner and Lydia Rush. And I'll let Ryder tell you what place we finished at the ISP Math Bowl.
We finished in second place.
In our division.
Yeah.
For the state.
We got 66th place.
So we're very proud. Do you have any questions for them? We just want to recognize their hard work. They practice a couple times a week for a couple of months after school, so the teachers and the kids, and then there's 15 on our team between 4th and 6th grade, and we travel to Rushville to compete.
How long do you have to, do you just study with the group after school, or do you guys do your own work at home?
We just study with the group after school.
Okay.
Awesome. And remind me, Mrs. Phillips, groups are based upon size of school, is that right?
Yes, there's different color divisions, yes.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. And what color are we in, do you remember?
We are green because we compete with 4th, 5th, and 6th graders.
So it's based upon age as well?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And if you've never been to a math bowl competition, it's cool. It's really cool.
It's really cool.
And it's,
Very confusing for those of us that are math challenged.
They're tough questions.
Yeah, they are. They're incredibly difficult, yeah.
How many kids do you
on the team, did you say?
We have 15 kids on the team.
awesome.
That is so cool.
Thank you.
Well, on behalf of Fayette County School Corporation, we appreciate the hard work that you guys put in as coaches and the work that you guys put in as students, and thank you for representing us so well. And your shirts are awesome.
Yeah.
Did you design those?
Ms. Hafner did.
They're really cool.
That's
Those
perfect.
are cool.
We're really proud of you, though.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Jennings?
Good
You're up.
evening. Well, I am honored to tell you about a project that one of our former Everton Bearcats has been doing. I said former because she's a senior now, and she did this through a project she did with FFA. So I want to bring Emma Ruff up here, and I want her to tell about the project she's been working on at Everton.
So, hi guys.
Hi.
My name's Emma Ruff. I'm a senior at Connersville High School, and I'm also the chapter president of the Connersville FFA chapter, kind of why I'm in official dress. The whole project that I've been doing over at Everton is called Everton Agri-Science. So, a little bit about that. Here recently, we've been having a bunch of agri-science projects being submitted by high schoolers. So agri-science projects are kind of like science fair. I know a lot of you guys probably did science fair or was around when elementary schools were doing science fair. It's basically surrounded around that, but with agriculture. And so we've had a lot of success in our chapter recently. I personally won national, I got 5th in nationals, and then we had an individual last year get 3rd in the nation for their agri-science project, and our current state secretary Christina Caldwell, who came here, she was a senior last year. She got 6th at nationals for her agri-science project. So we've been pretty successful, and I kind of wanted to bring this opportunity to a few elementary school kids. And since Indiana FFA has opened membership up to 5th graders, I was able to work with Mrs. Cooley's 5th grade class. I have a few kids up here, if you guys want to come up, that are in my 5th grade class that I'm teaching. So here we have Blaze and we have Otto, and they have outstanding projects. We want to talk about it a little bit.
So mine's about goat feeds. So we took different, like 4 different feeds and put them in different color buckets and then put them in with the goats to see which ones like they liked the best. So the one they liked the best was Belster. It's a pelleted feed. That's the one they went to like the most and stuff.
And what about you, Blaze?
I did 4 plants, Lily of the Valleys, that's their name, and I did it with different liquids, water, sugar water, salt water, and mango juice. And my purpose is that to determine which plant would grow better in different liquids.
What was your outcome?
My outcome,
What did you find out they grew better in?
salt water and just water.
Salt water's
I know.
So I'll try it on my lily of the valleys and see if they do better. Thank you.
Right? So these kids have outstanding projects, and I think we have 19 more, Mrs. Cooley?
Yes.
19 other students who are doing agri-science projects. They'll be presenting it next Monday, the 19th, to a few volunteers from our Connersville FFA chapter. They'll be presenting just like they did right now with their project boards that they're making right now, and they're writing reports and stuff. So they're doing amazing things. I'm super proud of them. Do you guys have any questions?
So you're a senior?
Yes, I am a
So
senior.
will this continue next year with somebody else?
I hope.
This was your project. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I do hope that it will go on to next year because it's really an amazing project and these kids love it.
That's awesome.
Right? You love it? Yeah.
Enthusiasm.
Now, do I understand that they may have the chance to go to a state and national level as well?
Yes, so because the membership opens up to 5th graders, they are able to go to Purdue June 17th to compete. Now this is optional for the kids. These two had opportunities, I don't know if they will or not, but they'll be able to have the opportunity to go up to Purdue and compete, which would be exactly what we're going to be doing Monday. So it's kind of like a mock contest, but there will be adults like you guys that will be there and they'll present their projects and then they'll judge it, and hopefully these guys will get first. And if they do get first in state, they'll be able to go to nationals in late October and early November to compete. So that's where you get the national titles, such as me with 5th in the nation. So
That's cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
it's amazing. Mrs. Cooley,
So-
do you have any other comments?
And what time will we have this on Monday?
Well,
It will be, we're planning on it around after school so that we can do judging during, after their lunch, and then judges will be able to come up with their stuff
After school or at lunchtime?
After lunch, so it'll be during school. Yeah.
And I just want to thank Emma. I mean, it's been a great project. She's been coming in every Wednesday since January to work with the students about FFA principles and a little background on FFA, and then we've gone through the whole scientific method and the process. And
That's awesome.
we've had some college days the past couple days where they've had a list of assignments they've had to do, and they've been working on their documents and their poster boards, and so it's been very involved, but it's been awesome. So thank you, Emma.
Yeah, of course.
And I will get specific times for all of you and email those to all of you so that you can come and check off all the projects.
I'd love it if you guys came by and see the amazing projects that these kids have.
Good job. And
Emma, you're a great ambassador for
Yeah,
FFA. You're
absolutely.
so articulate, you really did a great job presenting to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And you're up for state office?
I am running for state office for FFA. So I'll figure that out the day after they compete, actually, June 18th, if I get state office or if I don't. And if I do, I'll have to take a gap year and I'll live in Trafalgar with 6 other of my teammates. So it's exactly what Christina's doing right now.
Good luck to you.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Proud of you.
guys.
thanks,
Good
guys.
work.
Good job.
This is hands-on, and they have a You know, thank you. Is that something tangible?
Good job. Good job, Gary.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. So we do have our friends here from Gibraltar. Yeah, so I think, oh, there they are. Guys, the floor is yours. Yep. You're up. You're up. So thank you. Good to see you.
Good evening, everybody. Mike Priscilla, Gibraltar Design. Chris is running a little bit late. We had a lot of heavy traffic in Minneapolis, especially in 465 with the wreck there, so he'll be a little late. I'm going to go ahead and get started in this place. What we're here tonight is to give you an update on the elementary schools and also remind you about some other work coming up in the district. Victor will talk a little bit about a budget update for the projects under review right now. Can I get this to advance? Yeah. Go ahead, Terry. The first slide is our mission statement. That we'll always have that at each presentation. That's no different. It continues to be the same, as well as some of the guiding principles as we move forward with Fayette projects. Terry, let's go to the next slide. Can I control that from up here?
No, left mouse should do.
Okay. There we go.
There it goes.
Can't go back on that. Okay. Historical timeline. We started back in 2022 with some facility studies, if you remember. Going through all the different facilities, meeting with your maintenance staff, Jimmy especially, and some of his crew. We got to know your buildings quite well, and we recorded the conditions of your buildings, and I'm addressing some of those currently at Frazee and the high school. The planning schedule, we are working up to currently we're approaching your next project hearing in June for the upcoming projects. First of two project hearings. This is basically a table about each of the buildings, square footage of each of the buildings, enrollment, capacity. You can see over the years, enrollment is coming down each year, maybe 50 to 60 students per year. You can see that declining here. Conditions, just a check to see the conditions of your buildings. The highlighted areas in yellow are completed, and the unhighlighted areas are next up for the 4 elementary schools. You've seen these options a number of times for the different elementary schools. We're using Frazee as a benchmark for the remaining elementary schools, and with some of the work planned for those buildings. And I'm going to turn that over here shortly to Victor to talk about a budget update. Again, the areas in blue are just refresh of each of the buildings. Some of the red and yellow areas are probably a little bit more serious remodeling in each of the buildings. Typical classrooms in the district, typical large group restrooms, typical media centers, and work at each of the buildings is pretty typical between the elementary schools using Frazee as a baseline. Eastview is a little bit different because there's a district-wide life skills program at that building.
So if you remember, we've asked them to essentially, hey, we want to take a deep dive, and we've walked buildings, we spent time together, hours, talking through, if we take Frazie's template, what we've done there, and apply that to each of our buildings, each of our other elementary schools, what does that mean as far as a dollar amount? And that's what Victor's been working on, and I know he's worked really hard on it, and it was taking quite a bit of time. So, so that's really what we have tonight more than anything else.
Yeah, so with that, Victor?
There's a slide there that has a summary on it.
Yeah, I think if we go back a couple, Terry, go back one more.
There it is. Well, you know, us instruction managers love spreadsheets, so I have a spreadsheet for you tonight. And really the intent here is to illustrate to you, as we capture all the things that Mike described in terms of the improvements we made at Frazee, how we apply those needs to each of the other 4 elementaries. As you know, all 4 elementaries, they're not all the same. They're all of a different condition, different age, different systems. And so, but we're trying to all get all of those up to a certain benchmark. I will say that this benchmark that we're proposing tonight is a little bit more than Frazee. We had to sort of back into the budget for Frazee and make some compromises. So we are back here proposing what we would think would be the optimum updates. Nothing glamorous, nothing exotic here. We're just trying to update the buildings to a uniform location and sort of reset the life cycle cost. A lot of this is finishes and mechanical systems, almost entirely interior of the building. There are some improvements proposed for the site, parking lots at Central. But and not a lot of building envelope, not a lot of roofs or windows. They're primarily interior, all that interior space for education. And so what you see here is across the top, each column represents each elementary school. You see the square footage is listed there between each elementary. Franklin Central happens to be the largest of your elementaries at 58,000 square feet. Eastview and Grandview are almost very, very close in size, and then Everton is a little bit smaller. The reason I point that out is the cost also reflects how big the building is. So then as you look to the left there, you see the sort of categories of work. This is kind of the way we look at buildings in terms of improvement, in terms of where the costs are applied as they relate to different trade groups and different components of the building. So we start off with looking at interior construction, which varies everything from constructing or replacing operable walls. You have a number of operable walls in your buildings. Well, they're old, not in very good condition, and they don't secure sound very well between the buildings. So that's an example. It's also an example we have, I believe it's Grandview, that has the doors are in very poor condition, so we're replacing all the doors. So not every building has the same level of improvement. We're trying to capture those and bring them all up to a certain condition. Interior finish is a major part of what we're proposing, is update paint, ceilings, flooring throughout all the spaces. Specialties are things like display boards, marker boards, those kind of work. Equipment, not a lot of equipment in this. I think we were replacing curtains in the Franklin Central, Fayette Central's stage curtains. Furnishings, actually what we're really talking about is cabinetry. A lot of cabinetry in all the classrooms, replacing the old cabinetry with new for storage, both cubbies and teacher storage cabinets, that kind of thing that we're doing at Frazee. Then we get into all those things behind the scenes that you don't see. Plumbing, replacing piping. We have a lot of old piping in these buildings, behind the walls, above the ceilings, galvanized piping that over the years degrade and get shrink smaller and smaller, create problems because of water, hard water, and those kind of things. So replacing plumbing, HVAC. Probably the number one thing that you've done at Frazee and we're proposing here, and that is to upgrade all the mechanical equipment, primarily for the classrooms, to get quieter unit ventilators in the classrooms, utilize ductwork, to make a better, safer, more healthy environment for the students. Electrical, lighting is a big part of the electrical components of what we've proposed. And then technology. This is one thing that we're addressing here that we haven't done as much of at Frazee, and we're talking primarily with technology. I'm not talking about technology in terms of cabling for data, but things like PA and intercom, communications type systems, and also looking at some audiovisual equipment in all the classrooms. I mentioned the site work at Fayette Central, both parking lots, both removing them along the road and creating a new parking lot at the end next to the gymnasium, and the infrastructure related to doing that, like drainage, etc. So as you can see, that all subtotals to what we call a direct construction cost, and that varies across the buildings. Fayette Central being almost $8.8 million, as little as $3 million at Everton. Proportionally, it's really, Everton is in better condition, as well as it's newer and it's smaller. So all those variables take into effect in that cost. I have a design contingency line item. We're still very early in this process. We've learned a lot by working with you on Frazee, but we need to build in some contingency both for inflation as well as just things that we're going to discover as if we were to move ahead with the project. We found that 10% is a very reasonable contingency or protection of your budget, because once you establish a budget, we rarely go back and get more. At least that's our goal. So that gives you an adjusted direct construction cost. Then we did apply some furniture. Ideally, administration would like to see replacing furniture in all of these elementaries, or at least in Eastview, Everton, and Grandview. I believe you've already done furniture upgrade at Central. So that's included in the budget, and then we're applying a soft cost budget, and that would pay for everything from financing costs to architect's fees to construction management fees. So that's applied as a percentage against that, and that gives you a total project, so a total all-in cost for each of those 4 buildings ranges from $12 million to $4.4 at Everton. We've given you those individually all in, with giving you the flexibility if you want to move ahead with one building or you want to move ahead with multiple buildings. You have that flexibility in terms of the cost. One last item I'll note there is that on the lower left-hand corner, I think you're very well aware that Fayette Central currently is on a well, and it's currently on its own septic system. Quite frankly, we don't have a lot of information about what it would take to connect to city municipal sewer and water, but based on our experience, roughly 2 miles, I believe, of distance based on a number of assumptions. So it's really more of a benchmark than it is an estimate, but that's a significant cost, and of course that's going to have an impact on your decision moving forward. But I will tell you the base cost above the line. We do have some improvements to those existing systems, some repairs to that existing equipment if you choose to remain on a well, if you choose to remain on a sewer system. We're making some updates to that equipment, just so you know. So that's a summary of our cost analysis. There's been a lot of detail put in it based on the information we received from Gibraltar, and we have vetted in greater detail with your administration, so I believe they have a clear understanding of the scope of work that's being discussed, and I'm certainly happy to answer questions, and I know Mike and Chris could also assist me with any questions.
Thank you so much. I do want to say just a couple things. First of all, Frazee team, we have a lot of Frazee folks here. Just know that when Victor says that some of these benchmarks are a little bit higher than Frazee, if we would do something at Eastview, for example, a PA or whatever it happens to be that we didn't necessarily have money for in Frazee, we'll come back and pick that up, right? Like that's we're not going to leave you without those things. A couple other things. Randy and I met with our friends at Baker Tilly and Ice Miller just yesterday to talk about potential changes to legislation, how that affects bonding capacity There have been major changes to GEO bonds and a cool-off period after you take out a GEO bond. If you remember when we had them in last time, we talked about those thresholds that would keep us within the GEO bonding capacity, that would take us into petition and remonstrance, that place, and then those that would take us into a place of the R word that we don't talk about, right? So, but that petition and remonstrance sweet spot, if you will, all of these other than Everton would put you in that place, right? Where you're over, remember, when we did Frazee, because of our net AV, that was about 6.1 million. We saw the increase to the net AV, and I do want to say publicly, I know I've heard a lot of hubbub out there about net AV increasing and people upset about that with their tax rate. I understand that, completely understand the school corporation. That has no bearing on that at all. Like, we just get the net AV that we get. But because of that, remember we did the 1028 hearing. We had some more needs at Frazee because we were hearing from our teachers, we need more storage, right? And we didn't have the carpet in the corridors in that base bid and things like that. So we went back and we asked for another $400,000 or so to spend on the project, which we haven't yet spent, but it's there if we need it, right? But that put us at that 6.5-ish number. That was the number that we had to be under at that point in time. So you'll see, all of those, other than the Everton building, would put us above that threshold for GEO bonding, right? But put us into that place where we'd be subject to petition or remonstrance. So back of mind, right? But I want Ice Miller and Baker Tilly to be able to give you a really detailed view of what that looks like, right? What does it look like in real numbers as far as anticipated real numbers? Because there are changes legislatively that are going to affect our net AV, right? And if you keep everything the same as far as your levy, just a net AV decrease, which will happen, like that's coming, right? Well, naturally, even if your levy doesn't change, increase your tax rate, right? Now remember, you've done a good job as a school corporation. We've done a good job of managing a tax rate that's been really good for our people. So we've gone from about $1.24 to about $1.07 right now as far as our current tax rate. Now people may say, well, my tax, I'm still paying the same amount. Well, that's because your net AV rose, right? Tax rate dropped, net AV rose. It's just the way that it works. But we do expect, especially when personal property tax changes happen in 2028, that we expect to see a decrease and some other things that are changing. Randy can speak more to that probably than I can. We do expect that NAV to drop, right? So we have to keep that in mind too, as we go to the market to get, because we have our middle school bond that's dropping, right? And so we do have the ability to bond, right? But we need the full picture of what that looks like as far as how we structure that and how we anticipate what's coming in terms of those net AV changes, so that our taxpayers aren't hurting the wallet and we still can get done what we need to get done to be good for kids. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. So, sorry, that was a lot. Randy, did I capture that?
Like for the most part.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear a lot on property tax, a lot. You may have already been saying it yourself personally, forget about it as a board. Really what it does is the net AV, and net AV is like what the state is saying, here's what your property could be worth. Right now you get a $48,000 homestead credit if you own a home. So that's off. What's going to happen is over the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to get additional credits. So your net AV may be up here. Right now you can take your net AV and subtract 48,000. What's going to happen in the future is you're going to be able to subtract more. So while your net AV may stay the same, you're going to be able to take a credit. I want to say it's even up to 100,000 or so. Over a period of time, you're going to get more than double what you are currently getting to lower the taxes on your home. What it's going to do, though, is we have worked very hard in the last 5 years to keep our tax rate the same, and with the net AV going up, we have gotten more money from it. What you're going to see, though, and you're going to hear is, as Jeremy talked about, that switches. While the tax rate now may be $1.07, actually our debt service money is at 39 cents, I think. That 39 cents may become 70 cents. I think they projected for us to like 50 cents, 60 cents. it is going to significantly go up, and somebody will say, hold it, my taxes went from 0.39 to 0.6, and yet their actual real dollars is going to remain about the same. It may go up $100, it may decline $100, but it's going to flip-flop the way in which our taxes work.
So managing that tax rate, being good to our people, our constituents who are good to us, and looking forward and saying, how do we take care of needs? It's this juggle, right? And we're not even talking about the operations side of the lost revenue that we're going to have in our operations account. That's a completely separate conversation that we need to have as well, but they're connected, right? Because we know that. We've seen those numbers, that 425,000-ish in 2026 and 475 in 2027, and it balloons all the way to 1.35-ish million dollars of lost operations revenue in 2028. So part of the conversation as well. It's a lot. I know it is. I know it's a lot. I think this gives us a good picture, though, of the target, right? Of what's next and what could be next in terms of where we go. So, I long-term planning, I've told you numerous times that we can't operate the same way all the time when large variables change, right? We know that. I'm not here to have a conversation about school closure, but at some point in time, the school corporation had to close Orange and Alkina. I know that was hard, right? But because of changes to demographics, to numbers, to all of those things, that was a decision the corporation had made. That was a hard decision, right? A very hard decision. And one that's still hurtful for people, and I understand, I recognize that. I say all that just to say that we have to start having some harder conversations as we move forward. Number one, because I don't know where we're going to find the $1.35 million in 2028 to keep the lights on unless significant changes are made, right? Like that just is what it is. There's no way for us to be more efficient on routing and to turn lights off at the end of the day and to remove refrigerators and do all that stuff and save that much money. It just doesn't happen, right? So we have to, that has to be here, right? And so when you look at these numbers, and you think of these buildings and where the needs are, we have to start prioritizing what we feel like, what you feel like as a board is the next best step, right? So 2 years ago, you decided Frazee was the first step, right? In the high school, we're doing some important things at the high school this summer, and they're happening right now at the pool, but that Frazee was the best first step. So the next question is, what's the next best step for us, right? And the conversation that we had with our friends at Ice Miller and Baker Tilly was essentially that I do believe it makes sense to chunk it and to take one building at a time. That's my opinion right now. You as a board may feel otherwise, and that's okay. Randy may feel otherwise, and that's okay. But my thought is we make a decision on which building is going to be best for us moving forward, is going to be in our inventory the longest, right? And we move forward with that, with an understanding then, in 2 years, we'll have a better picture of these operation changes, how they're going to affect us, what that looks like, and be able to adjust appropriately thereafter with what's next, right? And again, you can structure the debt differently, right? So you have, if you remember, was it 2 months ago that we had our friends in, and they talked through that picture of you could take on $32 to $40 million tomorrow if you wanted to, right? Mm-hmm. Or you can take on 8 or 9 million and then 10 million, and then you could take on that debt, incrementally as your needs come up. I believe at this point in time, that's probably the more responsible step. That way we can be responsive to the changes that are coming, and manage that tax rate at the same time to a place where we're responsible to our people. Because if you take on $32 million in debt tomorrow, right, that's going to be really hard to adjust as we go to the changes that are coming. Does this make sense? Randy, tell me if I'm crazy.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
And this is for me, but I think it's also for the public. So you can't get bonds to fund paying your light bill, paying buses, those kinds of things, correct?
Right.
But you do bonds for projects, However, if you do a project at a school, the costs of running that school come out of our operations fund. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that when we're talking about funding a project, that money wouldn't come from taxes anyway. That money would always have to come from bonding. Right,
Yes.
otherwise you do the R word,
Yes.
and that referendum money could come to run operations, pay salaries, do whatever, and we really would rather never do that.
Yeah, I hesitate to say yes fully, only because, you know, daily, we have people that are in working on HVAC that's older in our buildings, right? So North Mechanical is here on a regular basis fixing our HVAC. The hope is that once we have Frazee up and running with brand new systems, we're not going to be doing that as often. So therefore, it does take some burden off the operations fund, if that makes sense.
Right.
If I install all new LED lighting through a project that's bonded,
It reduces our electric
then it reduces our electric bill. So
Right.
there are some things that
Do we have
will
that,
help with.
those figures
For what?
for how it would change? Just using the example of like LED lights. So if you got LED lights in the building, how does that change your electric bill?
At Frazee, if we do that over there, it will cost us, I mean, roughly it would cost like $140,000 if we had somebody do it. And in 7 years, it would pay for itself. So, I mean, there's like, we took down 40 lights at the transportation and put up 10. They said in 6 months, you have your money back.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
So there is
there is.
definitely a savings there.
It just takes a little time to see it.
Yeah.
For sure. I hope that makes sense.
Right, and also just another point of clarification is if we take out bonds to do this work, that doesn't increase the tax rate. I think the public gets concerned,
Sure.
obviously, as they should, when they hear, oh, you're gonna fix up a building, our taxes are gonna go up, but that's not how that works.
Yeah, managing that tax rate and managing your debt, obviously, you wanna try your best to try to keep it like level, right? And like we said, I mean, we've gone from $1.24 to $1.07 in the last several years and been very responsible in that way. But you're exactly right. So as the debt that we have from the middle school renovation drops, we just replace that debt with different debt. How do we structure that new debt is really the question, right? And what we tackle is the question. But no, you're right. You're 100% correct when you say that that it's not necessarily going to raise people's tax. Now, they did, if you remember, 2 months ago when they came in, they gave you scenarios that said, if you do raise the tax rate 5 cents or 10 cents, this is how much bonding capacity you have.
Right.
And that was substantial, right? So I think one raised it to 35 million, then 40 million based upon a 10-cent increase. You know, that's a decision that you can make as a board. But again, I would be hesitant at this point in time, just because we don't know fully what the changes that are coming and how they're going to affect us. And so that's why I think looking at the approach where we take one step at a time and chunk it in that way is really the direction to go. That'd be my advice anyway.
I think that's why some of those districts that are hit so much harder than us, like 20 million a year, that they're telling the legislature that they're gonna have to raise taxes on their people. They're gonna have to raise their tax amount in order to meet their demand that they have in their buildings, because they've lost all this money, so it ends up being a wash for their constituents. And, I mean, that's just what I've heard. I don't know if that's accurate.
Well, there is truth to the fact that if we're going, as those changes from Senate Bill 1 take effect, right? If you're going to maintain the same levy as a school corporation, then you're almost forced to raise your tax rate. Like, it just is what it is, right?
Yeah.
So, and what happens is folks will hit the tax caps faster,
Right.
therefore increasing our circuit breaker loss, and it's a cycle. So, yeah. Randy, do you want to speak to that at all?
Well, I wanted, and I use this with Baker Tilly, and as much for the new board members, but I think for the older board members also. In 2008, the state, and I'm going to use Education Fund and Operations Fund, which are the two funds we have today. Back then, it was called General Fund and Capital Projects Fund. They changed those. So when I refer to Education Fund in 2008, it really didn't exist, but I think that makes the conversation a little simpler. In 2008, the Education Fund was funded from the state of Indiana, and it was funded partially through local property tax. The capital projects fund and debt service were fully funded by the debt service fund. Somewhere in that, I believe, I can't remember if it was the 2009 budget or the 2010, I think it was 2010 budget, the education fund was 100% fully funded by the state of Indiana. It's funded through income tax, gambling tax, business tax, I'm forgetting some, there's 4 or 5 of them, but that fully funds our education fund. And then our operations fund is funded through local property tax as well as debt service. That has been the way it's continued. In 2012, I think, is when they set the constitutional limits that home ownership was capped at 1%. Business and or rental income, farm and something else is capped at 2%. Businesses are capped at 3% as far as what can be taxed. So they set those limits on us saying this will solve the problem. Well, now we're on down the line and that didn't solve the problem. And now our problem is, while we're not at 20 million, I would tell you our circuit breaker losses and our local property tax, we are in a worse situation than those school districts losing 20 million. Because we're a smaller school district. When you're talking 20 million, you're talking Hamilton,
Yeah,
Southeastern,
it's
Carmel,
really
local,
high,
I mean,
yeah.
you're talking much larger school districts. I would tell you, we are harmed more by this, and I'm afraid here's what you're going to be faced with, we're going to be faced with, is also realize now that our education fund is not only providing for our teacher salaries and all of those things. Right now, we're taking 15% out of the education fund to supplement into our operations fund. And the 15% is pretty much the highest. I wish we could have $0 going out of there, but we would not be able to keep the lights on and insurance paid and
That's
all
very
those
normal. Most
with that
corporations.
transfer of that money there. What we're going to see is, and what the legislature's done is they have kind of put new caps, not by caps, but they've put those additional reductions there. Those reductions you're going to see across all governmental agencies. You're going to see it at the city, you're going to see it with the county, you're going to see it with the school, the library. All of us are affected by the same ones. The difference is our legislature has allowed, I don't know what Fayette County is going to do, I've already seen some counties around the state, they've allowed the local municipalities that they can do things with income tax, they can increase that, they can increase other types of taxes to keep their budgets up when their property tax collections go down. Public schools in Indiana, there is no other. It's either property tax or state education fund. End of discussion. That's where we get our money from. We don't have an option to go out and say, can we tax in any other way? They have really, I feel, tied our hands, and we're fortunate here that we don't have it, but there are some other school districts now that they've added additionally. If you have 100 kids out of your school district that go to a charter school, you get property tax, you have to give a percentage to those charter schools. That does not affect us, but that's out there for some other school districts. So I wish I could give a positive, rosy forecast, but I am deeply concerned about where we go long-term and how we keep maintaining this. Right now, we are in great shape, but it's not going to last. We are going to be going into those cash balances in all areas to maintain where we are, keeping all of our buildings open. It's going to be tough going forward.
Are we losing money because of the TIF district as well?
We will long-term. I couldn't tell you, I have no clue as to what that is right now. Long-term, yeah, there will be some loss there.
In practical terms, we have to consolidate things. And as a former teacher, and I'm looking at a lot of you out in the audience, we're really good at our jobs, but we can't do our jobs if we have 40 kids in a class. And that's something that we really have to consider, is that if we don't have the funds, larger class size, we know simply just, we're cutting off our noses to spite our faces. And there's some really difficult decisions. When Gibraltar went in and found out everything that was wrong with our buildings, I think we were all kind of horrified to find out that things were 20 and 30 years beyond their expected life expectancy. So we were on breathing machines, so to speak, before then, and they've done a really, really good job of recognizing what we have to get fixed now But, you know, nobody likes their taxes going up. But if we want to provide, public education is under assault right now from so many things, and we're all a product of that. And it's kind of us to open our mouths and tell the legislatures, hey, guys, this is really what it is. They want to cut Head Start. They want to cut all of these things, and you can't do this and get your desired results. You can't have unfunded mandates from the state, you've got to do this, if you don't give us the money to do it and have the same results expected. So I think it's incumbent on everybody to let their legislators know. We understand that there's fiscal issues, but what is the price we pay in the long term as far as our kids are concerned? And that's really, really concerning, because as educators, we know that we have to front load, we have these things that we have to do, and we can't, some of them become unfixable after a while. And that's a risk that we cannot afford to take. And if it means a little more tax money, then we have to do it. It's where we want to put our priorities as a nation, as a state, as individuals.
Yeah.
You know?
And I do want to just really quickly speak to the education fund, because the class size thing, absolutely, and we agree 100%. And you know, the state advertises a 2% increase in budget for education. Just understand that 2% does include curricular materials, right? So if you take 152 times 2,850 kids and you subtract that from that amount, and we're gonna see, we anticipate seeing in the base tuition support about $100 more per kid next year than we received this year. That's good, right? But if you factor in our regular decrease of about 57 kids a year over the last decade, we're hopeful that at some point in time that subsides and we flatten, then we're at a net loss, right? And so that's why we've had conversations with our association already about, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna have when I go to the table next year, right? But at the same time, those class size numbers, I agree 100%, we have to keep them where they are. We are looking at areas that we might be a little fat in staffing and moving some people around and just trying to be smart and wise with that, making sure class sizes are comfortable both ways, right? That we don't have class sizes out there of 5 and that we don't have class sizes of 25 to 30. And so to Randy and Kim's credit and our team and our administrators, they've done a wonderful job of that. So, Chris, I know you snuck in.
Yeah, thank you guys for carrying on the conversation for my late arrival, so I appreciate you guys doing that. But we just a few more things, not to make this even more complicated, our conversation, but even more, but we've spent so much time talking about the elementary schools. We just didn't want to lose sight on the other buildings in the district, and so there's just a few slides to just make sure from our conversations from 2 years ago that we don't forget some of the items that surfaced at the middle school and the high school.
If you remember, the secondary building, you have 6 other buildings in the district that are probably in much need as your elementary school. So keep this in mind, this is just around the corner. You know what, after you finish these elementary schools, what do you have to look for next? Starting with the high school. High school right now currently is more than just a pool project, but we're replacing some, like Victor said, some of the galvanized piping in the high school. We're replacing a chiller. You may also be working with your preferred vendor doing some mechanical upgrades in the building. There's some pumps, so that there are some miscellaneous things at the high school currently being done as part of the pool project. But there are a lot more things at the high school that need to be, as you can see here, as well as the middle school. It's been, what, 20 years since anything's been done there. Your transportation, your career center, I mean, your other buildings are in need of attention as well. So you can see from this chart, so there's some significant cost coming up. Some of the things that look at the high school, there was a lot of discussion about what to do with the athletic facilities out there. There's a locker room building that's pretty much dilapidated, right? I mean, it's amazing how those kids are actually using that. And it's right there next to the grandstands where everybody in the community gets to see as well. So there are some needs with the athletics, the track, softball, baseball, all the different athletic components of the high school campus are needing some updates.
And baseball has been taken care of.
Yes, yeah.
Good. And then just moving to the, the matrix that just kind of summarizes all those different items at each of the schools. And they're not like the highest priorities, but you can tell we pulled forward things that will need to be addressed at some point. It'll be you as a board to determine what comes next and what's most important. And then we pulled together, looking at the three, major buildings that service kids at your upper grade levels, about some of those learning environments as well.
I have a question about
Yes.
the Career Center. We are entirely responsible for that building, not our sending schools.
Correct.
However, if that building had improvements, I don't even know how the Career Center runs, but I'm assuming we get money to help pay for teachers for those kids from other schools. That might mean that we'd have to increase costs if we worked on the Career Center. Am I on the right track?
So to speak. So Randy and I, we just had this conversation yesterday, and so that's an interesting conversation to have. I've been on both sides of it. I've been at a sending school corporation to a career center. My stance from that angle was, I can't justify putting my corporation's tax dollars into your building, right? That doesn't feel right, to put a roof on your building if I don't know if I'm going to be there in 30 years when that roof is paid off or is done with the choose. The other side of that is, from our perspective here at Fayette County, like, there's a shared space, right? We've got lots of kids in there. So really, my understanding is the corporation in the past has not done anything in terms of charging direct and indirect costs to sending school corporations. That the money the per pupil that is paid for kids to attend the Career Center at this point in time is the cost of operation, right? So any type of capital project done to that facility, which is ours, essentially is ours to take care of. Could we at some point in time look at charging rent, if you will, to the cooperative that runs the Career Center, which is the schools that are involved? Absolutely, you could look at that. I don't love that idea simply because we're already struggling to keep those costs down and to be as slim as we can. So our sending school corporations send us essentially $4,800 per student that attends the Career Center. So that's more than half of an ADM, right? Half of the cost, but it's expensive. When you get into welding rods and you get into all that stuff that they're using over there, lifts and equipment and all that stuff, it's expensive to educate a child. More expensive than it would be to hand someone a textbook in a social studies classroom. No disrespect to social studies. It's just a different animal, right? And so, I say a lot to say, I hope that answers your question, but that facility is Fayette County School Corporation's, and so unless we would essentially charge rent of some kind, then we would pay for those improvements.
And I'm going to go a little bit the other, this is Jeremy, we had this discussion.
We just did it, yeah.
And I would say the other side says, well, if something happened to the Career Center, you, meaning us, we're going to keep that. I'm going to say, yes, but every time one of your kids walks into the building and we turn the heat on, we're heating the Rushville kid as much as we're heating the Fayette County kid. Or we're cool, when we change the carpet in the building, it's all. So the wear and the tear, they're taking steps in the building and they're doing those kind of things.
But there are some operational and direct costs that we do that are part of that budget. So, you talk about like the use of Power School and copy machines and all that stuff.
Yeah.
All of that is part of the Career Center budget. I'm talking about more of the physical plant, like replacement of a roof, things like that.
But when you say that's part of the Career Center budget, that is how you came up with this figure of $4,800 per student. It
Correct,
includes
yeah.
all
So
those
Mr.
costs.
Duncan and his team
Okay.
essentially build a budget of what it's going to cost for them to operate over the
Okay.
course of the year,
Got
with
it.
salary, benefits, everything involved that takes the run of the place. And then based upon our enrollment there, they divide that amount, whatever that big amount is, by the number of students that they have. And then that is what we pay as sending school corporations,
Well, and we
times the
could-
number of kids that we have.
We could lose too, because if we remodel the Career Center and our costs go down, we may have to charge them less.
Yeah.
That's a conundrum.
Yeah, good question, really good question.
I just,
It's a wonderful facility and a wonderful place for
is.
kids. They do such a good job there.
And I think we learned a few years back that it's your one building that can do their own projects internally with their kids.
right.
Yeah. pretty amazing work.
We're doing that right now with the
Yeah.
classroom. Yeah, we're building a classroom for our kiddos that are in culinary.
So I like to end on two positive things to think about. We work with multiple districts that don't have the opportunity that you have. To have some bonding capacity to do tax neutral projects is a result of your previous boards and some of you that were on the board making good decisions in the past. And so you do have the opportunity. And the other piece that, you know, when you think about when Ann went through the middle school project, there was a decade or more where there was no worry from the board about the middle school because it was running efficiently and because it was taken care of and it was addressed. And so you were able to address some other needs in the district. Frazee will now get on that cycle. And you know, what you choose to do next, those buildings will get on that cycle too. So it does add up to helping with some operational costs as you move forward. So next steps for us, you know, the board determines the direction for next steps for the elementary schools, we will be ready. We're going to continue to work with Skillman, continue to work with the leadership team to just make sure that we refine those estimates to make sure that we are speaking the same language as far as what would be expected in each of the buildings. And then we will proceed as directed by the board.
And I have asked for a detailed backwards plan towards bonding by the end of the calendar year, right? So we have to go to market and have things closed and tightened up by the end of 2025 in order to maintain that, not have a hole in your tax rate, if that makes sense, or your debt. And so we have to finish that by that point. So I'm asked for that. Does that mean a project hearing happens in June or July? June feels really quick at this point, right? Because we if that's the case, we need to probably have a special session sometime at the end of May. Like, that's just where we're at. Again, trying to be responsive to legislative changes and everything else. I think July, I think we're going to be okay, is what it sounds like. But I should have that in my hands any day now to find out what that looks like. Randy, was that basically what I...
They hope to turn around here in a day or two.
Yeah, I was hopeful to have it tonight. I'm sorry.
I have a question for clarification. When you get a bond, can that be sprinkled around, or does that bond just particularly pay for this, this is what we're writing for, or?
When you say, I'm sorry.
I would say a bond can pretty much do what you want. It's a long-term project. Think of, from a home standpoint, I just think of it as a mortgage, and that's what, but I know there are school districts that have said, we want to do a bond to do HVAC upgrades to 5 of our buildings. Or they may do a bond to do roofs on 4 different buildings. So, or it may be a bond like we've done now that it's all focused on Frazee or the pool area. So it can be any of those. It's really long-term projects. You don't have the cash up front to pay for it, so you are borrowing money to do, but it could be spread out, it can be very focused.
But there is a transparency portion of that at the beginning through your project hearings and such, which you are laying out the scope of those projects and what that will look like so the public is aware. This is why we're borrowing the money and its purpose. A lot of times you set those scopes pretty wide just so you have some flexibility because things come up, right, throughout the course of a project. But there is transparency there. So it's not like a home equity line of credit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not, it's transparent. We couldn't go to Frazee with everybody here and say, we decided we want to take $1 million and spend it at another building. No, when the board had the hearing and said, here's what we're going to use it on, then that's what we use it on.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for these guys while we have them? So I think we have a much clearer idea of what we're up against in terms of the cost, or at least anticipated cost of the projects. Do understand those are all estimates, right? And we found out when we went to market for Frazee that those estimates, as hard as they try to be accurate, because they're amazing, aren't always what's going to come back, right? So if you remember Frazee, we did base project on most, base bid on almost the entire project, right? Because we simply had to stay within the $6.1 million. Now, have a little more flexibility here if you're not staying within that geo-bonding and you're going to the next step of the petition remonstrance, because you don't have to stay at that cap necessarily, right? So you have a little more flexibility where we can say, we're going to take that, and that's why they say, like, the project scope might be a little wider than Frazee, right? Because we don't have that cap necessarily that we're working against. So I hope that makes sense. So, thank you guys so much.
Skillman, Gibraltar, our calendars are ready for whatever you need from us in the next few weeks or months.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. A motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, all for public comment. Any comment?
Agenda items.
Alright. Approval of minutes from the regular business meeting from 4/8. From the personnel report. Recommendation for employment. Approval of the April 2025 claims, 70,620, 78,704. And donations. Do you want me to read the donations?
Yeah, if you would, that'd be great. Thank you.
A donation of steel valued at $275 for CIT to WCC to be used in the welding technology program. A donation of $4,852.92 from the Fayette County Education Fund to the following: Little Spartans Preschool to be used for gross motor STEM materials, sensory equipment for special needs. CHS to be used for the mannequins and the document scanner, and Grandview to be used to purchase foundations A through D. Do I have?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Those opposed, for this board? Opposed?
Before going to the next item, if I
Yeah,
can interrupt and
please.
make an introduction.
Yeah, because our Frazee people have been very, very patient
They
as
have
they
been.
learned all about bonding and this. We love you guys, we're so thankful.
If you notice, we have the revised, things personnel-wise have been going crazy the last 2 days with a lot of movement, and so we had a revision. I do want to point out that you approved tonight the hiring of Kelly Schaefer to be the executive secretary to the superintendent and assistant superintendent. Cindy breathed a sigh of relief that we can't hold her forever.
She's already been here almost over a year. She intended.
But more importantly, I do want to make an introduction. What? What is all this shaking of no in the back of the room? The podium, Mrs. Morgan, is yours, but it's my privilege to introduce Brittany Morgan, the new principal at Frazee Elementary. She has been a teacher in the school district. This year, she's currently an interventionist at Eastview. Things that I would want you to know: she's a non-traditional educator from the standpoint. She kind of started out more as a mom a little bit, and then did some other things like, I really want to be in education. And so she's came to education a little later in life than maybe a traditional student, but I think she brings a lot of skills and experiences there that that average administrator doesn't bring with them. So I'm excited about that. The other one is I've been here almost 5 years. For 4.5 of those years, I talked to my secretary and said, would you like to come to the board meeting tonight? And she said, no, 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 no. Many of you may recognize Crystal Howe back there, who is tonight not an employee of Fayette County Schools, but a proud mother, I think, in all of it. But Brittany, welcome. I think the staff there behind you is all excited about bringing you on board too, but anything you would like to say to the staff, the board, anything, the floor's yours.
Yes.
Yes.
I was gonna go, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I mean,
She was way better than I was, so it's fine. I'll be brief. I just want to say thank you and that I am very grateful and that I'm excited for the future of Crazy and we're going to do great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We couldn't have everybody here tonight because of some illness and other activities that were going on, but we could be here, so if you'll start, just say who you are and what
Courtney
you do.
Stevens, kindergarten. I'm Ann Stanley, special ed.
Amanda Fields, the secretary.
Abby Pimentos, 4th grade.
Sally Finn, 4th grade.
And Beth Fuller, 3rd grade. Welcome to our family. We appreciate you.
It's just me and that's my dad.
It took you a minute.
I do want to say really quickly, though, we had some Frazee folks who were part of our process and helped us in terms of the first round interview, so thank you so much. We appreciate it, and Sasha was part of the second round as well. I do want to say this, it's always special when you have the opportunity to grow your own and see people grow and move up from within. I don't know how many of our current principals, I know Stephanie, you were a teacher here, right, first? Yeah? Anybody else here? Oh,
Kate.
It's really awesome to see that, and so I am super excited to see you as you continue to grow and be the leader that we know that you can be. And so, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. You have a wonderful team here. So, thank you guys so much.
Crystal, you should.
She's walking out the door.
Every meeting, it's just like they just trickle out.
Oh, Terry's still back there.
You did? His mom is so sorry.
So I have to tell them.
It's okay. You can just pull a shot.
that is lovely.
Chartwell's contract renewal.
Okay, I am making a recommendation that we retain Chartwells as our food service provider in the school district. This is one to kind of educate everybody. The state requires at least, at the minimum, every 5 years, you have to bid out services. We are in the, I think the third, is it the third renewal?
Actually, we go out, yeah, so 26 is our year 5, I think.
Yeah, I think it's more,
Fourth, yeah.
this is the 4th renewal, we got a
Yeah.
5th renewal that
Yeah.
we would have for next year. But the costs are simply based on the consumer price index and those kind of things, so they do nudge up a little bit depending on what's going on out there. Otherwise, our original contract still supersedes going forward. I would, like I said, I recommend approval to continue on with Chartwells. And we have Rachel O'Brien, and I don't know if there's more that you want, but Rachel's our food service manager here within the school district. Does a spectacular job of that, and I have really appreciated working with her and with Chartwells as a whole, so.
I'm excited to see you're still doing the summer food program.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let her, well, if we approve
Yeah,
this,
let's
then
approve
she can
this
talk a
first,
little
and
bit.
then we can talk a little bit about
Okay.
some changes, actually. I
Okay,
think it's gonna be
great.
better,
Thank you.
so yeah.
Okay.
Do I have
Motion to approve Chartwell's contract.
the second?
I'll second.
Those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you. So Rachel, do you want to talk to summer food program just really quick while
I'll
we?
make it super brief, but I kind of wanted to, Cindy handed out a flyer to everyone for the non-congregate meals. So there is a difference. We are doing some congregate food programs this summer. Grandview Summer School, we will feed those kids for free. Of course, our summer feeding, it's under SFSP this year.
It always is in the summer, but that is all free to all students, so you don't have to charge. So Grandview Summer.
What's SFSP?
SFSP, so that's the Summer Food Service Program. Randy's pretty good at stuff like
And
that,
who-
so I should ask Randy.
Who pays for that?
So the USDA funds
Right.
the program. The DOE, the state, is responsible
There are no
for
words in the
monitoring program.
cafeteria. USDA, DOE, SSFA.
There's no-
We go
That
by
means
all
all
like
of those.
acronyms, we don't go by like, yeah, the actual names.
So that's not the summer program that was cut by the government?
So no, that's the Sunbucks, that was formerly the PEBT program. So,
Those are the debit cards that families receive
yes,
for food. and-
that started during the pandemic and then kind of turned into Sunbucks, so they got that program. But, so we're still doing the same program, SFSP. We have congregate sites, like I said, at Grandview for summer school. We have a summer discovery camp, we feed those children every year. And then we also do some local VBSs, and then we do gymnastics camp, band camp, things like that. So we serve those kids. The flyer you guys have is for our non-congregate rural meals. So we are under an umbrella as far as being a rural community where we are able to do these non-congregate meals. It's very similar to COVID, and you hand out bulk meals to these kids. When I say bulk, they are unitized, so we pack them into breakfast for Monday, lunch for Monday, breakfast for Tuesday, lunch for Tuesday, etc., into one big bag. Any student 18 and under is able to come to this handout. We were presented with a couple new options this year. So our auditor called us and said that as far as the USDA, since they do fund the program, they are looking at us, and we had a lot of sites last year that we are feeding kids at. And that is worrisome to the USDA just because of the double dipping threat. So people could jump around to different sites, stock up their pantries, and last year we were writing names down, we were tracking it that way, but the USDA wants to minimize that threat. So they gave us a couple options. They said we could keep all the sites we had, which last year we had every school except for Grandview. We were not allowed to offer meals there since we're doing summer school meals there. You can't do two programs. Last year we did every school. We could still do that, close all the sites, so the kids had to pre-enroll to get meals there and not advertise at all. Or we could eliminate some sites, advertise, and let the kids, so if a kid is enrolled in Eastview, they will need to go to Eastview to get their meals. If a kid is enrolled in Everton, they will need to go to Everton, etc. High school is, I called Randy, we discussed it, he talked with Kim and Jeremy and Cabinet, and we decided to advertise and eliminate a couple of the slower sites, just for the simple fact that our community, we need the advertisement to get people to come out. So we did the high school and the preschool, which were two of the sites that the DOE recommended to remove. Just because the preschool is already so close to middle school, we have Grandview, and then Frazee and the high school are so close together, and Frazee is a very popular site. So we did opt to do that. We are able to start advertising. That flyer was just approved this evening about 5:30.
Great.
So we are able to start advertising. Something new this year we are going to do, we are going to hand out 7, so Monday through Sunday they will get the meals. So on Mondays they will get 4 breakfast, 4 lunch, and then on Fridays they will get 3 breakfast, 3 lunch. So that's going to feed those kids Monday through Sunday their breakfast and lunch. So it'll help bridge the gap of them not getting their meals at school. And like I said, that will be free for the students to come up. We will be using our point of sale this year, so we will have our Chromebooks, and that way we can verify that the kids are enrolled in those schools. And so that has made the auditors happy, because that's a clear-cut way to identify that. If a student would come and they're staying over with Johnny, and Johnny lives in Everton, and he goes to Eastview, the other student, we could do a one-off to where we are allowed to give that student meals too. So it's not, concrete, we can't give you meals, but we do need to pretty much stick to that plan. So we worked on an integrity plan, and it was approved by the DOE, so we have to follow that plan. So does anybody have questions about summer meals? Great. So hopefully we'll be advertising the flyer and the menus here shortly. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, thanks, Rachel. So, Rachel, do most of your meals require refrigeration? Some do, some don't.
So they do, and we also are required to have instructions on how to reheat and how to store those items. So we have a second flyer that, well, instructions that go in each bag that tell, because a lot of these kids are microwaving these things themselves. So it does give them instructions on how to do that and for how long. But yeah.
Is there a second option if they don't have the refrigerator or something?
So there's a lot of shelf-stable items, but there isn't. So I mean, like Daryl just asked me, is there going to be Uncrustables? Because that's his favorite. There's the Uncrustables, they can thaw, and those can sit for up to 48 hours before you would have to throw them away. So a lot of the items could, but there are going to be your one-offs like chicken patties and chicken nuggets where they are going to need refrigeration. And that brings up a good point for us to, for something for us to think about. Shelf-stable milk is allowed to be served. So I mean, if a student would say something to us, we are allowed to do that, just like we would offer Lactate or anything else for special diets, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
I already approved that, so approval of asphalt paving and patching projects.
Say, I'm recommending, seeking approval from the board. Colwell Seal Coating and Striping last year did quite a bit of work. It was the first year we'd worked with them because the company we had worked with previously is getting out of the business. We did solicit some pricing from some others, and Colwell was really the only one that provided pricing for, and I gave you the, I mean, there's, I think something, I don't know about every building, but almost every building, and we have it in the budget, but the total of this will be, once the board approves this, we'll be able to get a discount. The top end of it is about $128,000 of seal coating, patching, all of those, again, throughout the school district, relining where we need to do that, but like to have permission to move forward with that.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Those, all for? Opposed? Approval of course additions and textbook adoption.
Yeah, so you have that in your packet. I'm actually going to kick that to Kim. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Looking for.
So, the high school is working on some new principal courses and working with Edmonton to provide some additional opportunities for kids in which we may not have courses available. So what we're doing is we have taken that through the textbook adoption committee for their approval, and they have approved it. Just because we put these on our course scheduler doesn't mean that we will offer them every semester, but we have to have them approved by the board. I choked on my saliva and now I can't talk. Approved by the board so that we can offer them if we get to a semester where we have a kid who may need an additional course to fulfill a pathway or to fill a graduation requirement. So tonight we're asking that you take the recommendation of the curriculum committee to add the courses to the course catalog for the high school, and you can see all of them are listed by their course codes from the state, and a little synopsis of what each course is going to offer that student if they choose to take that course either through an online platform, or if we get enough students in which we have a course request, we do have a teacher to teach it, we can teach it in-house as well. And then middle school, they are going to adopt continued use for Indiana HMH. We use that in elementary as well. And that also went through the committee and it was approved by the committee. So between the middle school and the high school, I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 15 courses that we're going to add to our course schedule.
And I had asked Jeremy, these will be taught by teachers we have.
If we offer them in-house, then they have to be taught by a teacher who has a license. to
Right,
teach
but
them.
we're not hiring teachers
No, no,
to
no.
teach these, that's what I.
No, and some, like I said, some of these will be provided through Edmentum, which is an online platform.
Okay.
But again, we have to have it approved through the curriculum committee as well as the board in order to offer them on our course schedule.
Okay, the middle school language arts, basically, they're just re-upping, this is the textbook thing, it's the one we already use.
Right.
It's just a later version.
It's a later version.
So the content is not changing.
It's just, the newer versions are just with the updated standards.
Okay, but basically the content's not changing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct. And K6 is the same, we're maintaining our continued use with HMH as well.
Yeah, it's a good anthology, it covers a lot of really good stuff.
Do I have?
I'll take the motion.
Second.
I'll second that.
Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of overnight out-of-state field trip request.
Yeah, so if you remember, I've started bringing these to you. I just feel like it's good practice for you to have the knowledge of when our kids are going to overnight field trips and out-of-state field trips. And so you see here, Mr. Hobson's taking some kiddos to Kings Island, which is out-of-state, of course. We also have FFA, that's going to the Indiana State FFA Convention. I know Leslie had asked me if that's consecutive nights. They do go and they do stay. And so that's at Purdue University. One of our former students, who is currently an officer, will be presiding over one of those sessions, which is really cool, on Wednesday, and I can't remember the date. I'm going to try to make it though. We have our cross-country team going on a trip to Saraland, which is in Columbus, Indiana. Coach McCullough and our boys basketball team taking a trip to Indiana Wesleyan University. It's a team camp. And then Mrs. Kidd taking her children for a sixth grade celebration at Kings Island, which is out of state as well. So my approval, or my recommendation to approve those overnight and out of state field trips as presented.
Good to see our kids getting opportunities.
Yeah, you bet.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
I'll second that.
Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. So we have a new batch of policies. Just an FYI, I did reach out to CCHA today and I asked them, I told them we're gonna pause for the month of June on new policies. And the reason is because I've got some old policies that are stacked up. So our naming policy, I just haven't had the margin to get to it. There are some other things. Our wellness policy is all but done through our wellness committee. I just haven't had a chance to put it in the right format and review it and get it to you because we've been so, it's been heavy. So next month we'll meet, Sasha, Ann and I will meet, but we will go through some of those that we know are still waiting in the docket that we've kind of set aside.
We decided to revisit, yeah.
So, and then we'll pick up the new ones again in the month of July. So, those for second reading today we're asking for action approval today were brought to you last month. We have C425. You'll see there's a brief synopsis of each that I guess that you don't have it in front of you necessarily, but I have been putting in that in the Friday letter. And so C425 is a suicide prevention awareness policy. C600 is a withdrawal from school policy, basically outlining withdrawal policy for kiddos that are age 16 to 18. That's been vetted by Mrs. Plum and Mrs. Crisaro. E225 university and college programs, essentially saying we offer those dual credit programs. By the way, had a bunch of kids, I can't remember exactly how many that graduated at Ivy Tech. Do you remember how many kids that was over that?
I think it was 24.
24. I know we had 80 plus from the Career Center as well.
Yes.
And those they were not all Fayette County kids, but still a lot. G125 criminal organization activity, a required policy by statute. G425 pledge of allegiance and moments of silence essentially spells out our policy for those kiddos and their expectations during the moment of silence. We also have F125. I'm sorry, that's not listed.
H200.
Yeah, we'll go straight to H200. I apologize. H200 relations with special interest groups, which essentially spells out our policies for outside organizations involving student participation on promotional activities. So again, you've seen them all. They've been vetted by Ann and Sasha and the team. So my recommendation to approve those board policies as presented today.
I'll make that motion.
In a second. So all in favor? All opposed? Okay, carries.
Thank you.
Discussion items, school board policy.
Yep. So we have another batch for you here, and I've sent these to you. I'm also giving you those synopses. So we have A175 whistleblower protection, essentially protects people who are expected to report certain things amongst the school corporation when someone doesn't follow policy or rules. Interestingly enough, we have a desktop monitoring through Title I through the Department of Education. One of the things they asked for was our whistleblower policy. So I said, we're working on it, we're going to get it in place. A285 distracted driving essentially just spells out what happens if we have a teacher or someone, I shouldn't just say a teacher, any of our people that are driving and distracted. Also spells out what happens we had some discussion about students,
Right,
because
in the parking
students
lot.
could be punished essentially for this policy for being distracted while driving. Obviously wouldn't want to do that unless it causes bodily harm to someone else or to property. C200 anti-bullying policy. This one's pretty big, it's pretty meaty, and so as a school corporation, we're obviously required to have that policy in place. It does spell out the Indiana state definition as defined by statute of what bullying means, and then how we as a school corporation are required to handle those situations that would be reported to us. E100, adoption of curriculum materials, essentially just points to our admin guidelines. E150, high abilities, same thing, basically points to our administrative guidelines as well. F175, collection and forgiveness of debt, bad debt. Basically just states out our processes and procedures for how we collect debt from parents or families. This isn't near the problem it used to be when we had textbook rental. It was a real problem. Now most of our debt that we have, that we collect, is associated with Rachel in our cafeteria.
Do we get a report on that? Because I know in the past, we've had some community people that have donated to help defray.
We do share that with Tina monthly, and she does report for that, so I know Tina has the data.
Okay.
Yeah. I called Rachel on this last week, and they said, hey, what do we do with kids who have bad debt in the
Well, I
cafeteria?
think we've had occasionally somebody at a school, a parent will say, I'll cover some money towards the food debt.
Yeah.
I have served in districts before where the past practice before my arrival was to serve an alternate lunch to those children. And I've taken a very firm stance. That's not okay. It's not, absolutely not the child's fault.
No, but it stigmatizes them immediately.
Yes. So
Yeah,
kudos to you
it's-
guys and
We've
leadership.
not done that in a lot of years.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So kudos on that. F225 fundraising and crowdfunding. This speaks to crowdfunding as in what's the main website I'm thinking of?
Donors Choose.
Thank you. Those types of sites and what that looks like and how we work our way through that. Well done.
I think it was
There's another one though too, I think.
It was in the.
Yeah, it's right here.
Is it in there? Yeah. I don't have the actual policy right in front of me right now. But that process for using those types of sites and ours is spelled out there. And then G175 is just a required policy based upon state statute as far as chemical management and preparedness for toxic hazard. We do have toxic chemicals that we have in our chemistry programs, but also in cleaning supplies and such. And there's a process and procedure to how we have to take care of those things and make sure that they're properly stored so that they're safe. There they are. You've seen them in their full capacity, and so.
Vehicle idling, you forgot.
Did I miss that one?
Yeah.
I didn't have
That's
that
the
one
one
in my
that you can't
synopsis.
sit out in front of the school and have your car running for an hour and a half.
It basically, it's vehicle idling. I apologize. I don't know why I didn't have that one of my synopses here. So vehicle idling is G225, which essentially is exactly what you're saying, which is state statute says that you cannot stand in front, and we do have signs that say that, no vehicle idling.
But I see parents lined up a good 30 to 40 minutes before school is out.
Well, technically, they shouldn't be
signs because
idling.
Maybe their cars are out. They might just
Now,
replace it.
none of us necessarily want to be the idle police,
No?
but there is statute that does govern this. So, and it's spelled out there. It
The
says,
idle police, I kind of like that.
it tells you if temperatures are below 32 and above 85, idling is permitted to maintain the vehicle's interior temperature, but otherwise you cannot idle longer than 5 minutes.
Oh,
I'm gonna get Daryl a vest that says idle police.
Can I give parking tickets?
No.
oh,
That sounds like somebody might be a violator.
It seems like a revenue source to me.
I love all this stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so those new policies, obviously you haven't, you can take a look at them, please dig into them. If you have questions, Sasha and Ann are great resources because they've been through them as well with a fine tooth comb. And you can always reach out to me as well. We'll bring those back to you next month for a second reading. And again, I'm gonna bring some other policies for a first reading next month, but they won't necessarily be in a new CCHA batch. I need to stop and catch up, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a lot, it's been a heavy lift. It's good though, it's good.
it's good.
Any public comments? Report items, superintendent's discussion, group reports.
Anybody have anything to report?
Just the regional dinner tomorrow night
Yeah.
for those attending.
Dustin has a school safety meeting, is it tomorrow? Tomorrow.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else has been part of anything since we last met.
Principals and directors reports.
Daryl, Terry?
I just thought, I don't know how many of you guys were there, but I thought the Difference Maker luncheon was very nice. the
Oh,
other
yeah,
day.
that was great.
I think Jeremy did a great job, and I think people appreciated that, so kudos.
Yeah, that
Thank you
was
for your
great.
attendance.
Director of operations report.
A few things. You have the fund report in front of you. And I'll get on my soapbox again. If you notice, all of the funds are in great shape. You notice though, the all-school textbook fund has a balance of $1,800,000 approximately. That will be disappearing. We can thank our legislature again. If you remember, 2 years ago, our legislature said, we're going to take over a textbook so the parents do not pay that. At that time, they said, here's a batch of money from the state to spread out. It was not enough money to fund free textbooks across, so we had to pick up the cost of that. But first they said, you have to bring it all into central office. You have to set up a separate fund so we can maintain that and that's what it's going for. And then it was, you've got to write it into the education fund. Well, now the current session or the session that just ended is they now said textbooks should not be a separate fund. It should be part of your educational fund, but the money that you have in there does not count towards bargaining money. So they have essentially said, we're going to take it over, we'll look at what great guys and gals that we are, and in 2 years period of time, it is now hidden into the budget that it falls on the school district. Any shortfalls there is going to come out of our funds. We're going to try to manage it, but they have done that. So otherwise, you see the rest of the accounts as we go through there and those kind of
And
things.
again, when you see our governor talking about that 2% increase in education fund dollars, understand that 2% does include that curriculum materials money. So it is not 2%. So it's frustrating because it's a falsehood, like it's not truthful. It is 2%, right, increase in total funding, but now they're asking us to take money that used to come to us separately out of that money that we receive for our students. Is what it is. We'll work our way through it. But Randy's right. It ended up being about $152 a student is what we got in reimbursement costs. I think probably kindergarten and first grade might have been around there, a little under, but the vast majority of our grade levels, especially when you get into high school kids, when you get into kids that go to the career center, we're not even close. We don't even sniff that. You know, when you think a Chromebook, as far as the rental of a Chromebook for a year ends up being about $60 probably. I mean, that's 60 of the 152 off the top. And so you got $92 to work with for the rental of the rest of your textbooks. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's where we are. But yeah. Sorry, Randy.
Oh, nope, that's fine. Another one, I'm bringing this up now just to give you a little heads up because we have not traditionally done this very often here. In fact, I don't know that I've done it since I've been here. But just to make everybody aware, probably in June or July, I'm going to come to the board and ask for an additional appropriation of probably somewhere in that $400,000 to $600,000 range for Frazee and for a couple other things that we're doing there. As a reminder, we have money, cash that we can put our hands on, and we have an appropriation. We have plenty of money to fund all of this. What an appropriation is the legal authority that you as board members give us to spend. So right now, like the additional money, we have plenty of money to do the additional work that we've already talked about and approved at Frazee. What I'm looking at is whenever I created all of the budget a year ago, the line items, a couple of them just aren't big enough to handle that. So really, I'm just going to be coming to the board asking for an additional appropriation. Really, you're just giving me the authority to spend the money that we already have.
We've
So
already approved
there's-
it, but now it's like you can go spend it now.
Correct. So I just want to give a little heads up on that so that next month or the month after, if I bring that back, it's like, why is he dumping this on us? Because I don't want that. The other thing, and I don't know if this is on Jeremy's list or not, I'm going to take the HR portion of it, I guess, of my director of operations and advertise a little bit, but we've changed a couple of things. Used to, we had a dinner to recognize retirees. Over the years, we found that it dwindled. Less and less people came to the dinner. Everybody that came said this was really great, we love it, but fewer and fewer people did that. So we are now changing. We're going to have an end of the year breakfast on May the 23rd, the last day of school for the teachers. It's going to be in the high school cafeteria for the breakfast, and then we're having a recognition program in REY's auditorium that the retirees, and right now, I don't even know, I think we're over 20 retirees.
Is this
We-
after the breakfast?
It will be followed, yeah. We'll eat in the cafeteria, and then we'll move to the auditorium for the recognition. I think it's scheduled to start at what, 7:30 and 8:15, I think, for the recognition, so we're getting that out. So we hope it does a better job of recognizing all of our retirees and giving them the recognition what they feel like they deserve after their years of service here within the school district. So, like I said, I don't know if I took your thunder, but if I did,
No, it's great.
you can just add to it. So
Perfect, no.
hopefully you can be there. It doesn't seem like it could be a week from Friday, but we are at the end of school. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Randy.
Assistant Superintendent.
I do not have anything to report on this evening.
Back to you.
Yeah, so just so you know, we do have preliminary iLearn results. Those are embargoed, right? So we can't share them with you publicly at this point. And so we're working on disaggregating that information and data for you. That way, when we can share that publicly, we can. So we're just not there yet. And Kim, we're doing IRE3 retesting soon, right? If you remember, the state is going to allow us an intermediate test in between the spring administration and the summer administration. So essentially, those kids will have one more chance. If they pass it here at the end of the year, they won't take summer school, right? Which is awesome. So
A lot of testing right now.
there's a lot. Just a couple things really quickly. Andy Stover had a chance to stop by the office yesterday. I do want to find a way for you as a board to meet him soon. I don't know what that means. I probably should ask him if he can come tonight. We were at a career center meeting together. Yeah, I'm gonna call him and see if he can stop by. We were at a career center board meeting today, so he did stop by the office, got a chance. Daryl met him. I don't know if Terry wasn't here, unfortunately, but super excited to get him here. Obviously, Randy's gonna be a huge loss, but to fill that vacancy the way we have with somebody who's done the job is awesome. And a high energy guy, would you say? Cindy's like, yeah, he's a doer. He's a doer. Help us get things done. Education Hall of Fame, just want to say this publicly, that we are taking nominations for that through, I guess they're not accepted yet until June the 1st, correct? So as of June the 1st, we'll be taking those applications. We do have some information on our website about that through July the 10th. So we have about a month and 10 days there, about 40 days that we're taking those. Cindy is the point of contact for that. Is there a reason why July 10th is the date?
It's what was set forth in policy.
Oh, I just figured that's because that's your last day. Okay.
That too.
That too.
That too.
Construction updates that haven't been talked about already, just really quickly. I did send you some pictures of the pool. It's crazy right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot. It is pretty extensive. What you can see is extensive, even what's behind the scenes is extensive. They took me back and showed me the new water lines coming into the building, and I mean, it's pretty impressive.
You can stand on the tennis court and see out in the hallway.
Yeah,
It's pretty wild.
It's pretty, yeah, it's a lot of work. And so I've tried to keep you up to date with the bleacher project. Essentially, what we have now is we have an engineered design that's being submitted to the state of Indiana for design release. If we get that through the state of Indiana, then we'll be good locally, is what we're told, right? That process has been interesting. I've learned a lot. I even asked, I don't know if I sent you that, but I reached out to the state and said, hey, like at what point in time do you need design release for bleachers, right? Because we put bleachers up all the time, right? A five section set of bleachers or where's the line? And essentially I was told that if it's gonna hold public people, you gotta have design release.
Wow.
Like, whoa, okay. All right, that changes a lot. So I'm working through that. Again, thank you for your patience and your grace. Our parents, we had two track meets. We had a high school meet and a middle school meet. We know those circumstances weren't the best. I recognize that. We had planned to be done. It just didn't happen. Things come up. And I just want to thank Andrea and Damon, Daryl and his team, everybody. David Webb, was it David that brought the sound system? Yeah, David brought a sound system out, and they just made the best of a bad situation. So I just want to say publicly, thank you.
Up to Thursday.
Yeah, because I know it's not ideal, and I think we only had maybe one complaint. Somebody didn't have a chair, and I'm sorry, it just is what it is. So it'll be great when it's done. So.
Wasn't it steps also, like steps?
What's that?
That one they sent you back, didn't it include, like steps have to be checked out?
I don't know, I'd have to look. I don't know, I'd have to look. Just really quickly, directional team went to Eminence, Kentucky to see Buddy Berry and his team. We had a really good meeting, our last meeting, and they want to work over the summer. Like, they asked me to work over the summer, which was interesting. I think that speaks to the quality of the individuals that we have in the room from, again, every building represented. Working on what we call exemplars, essentially, which are, like if we have a portion of graduate that says we want our kids to be effective communicators at the end of 13 years with us, what does that look like in each of our grade levels? Like if you're a kindergarten kid, what does that mean? Does that mean you've done a TED Talk? Does that mean you've presented something in front of your class? What does that mean? So that's what we're going to be working on. Those teams are this summer. Just super thankful for that group and what they're doing. Let's see, Randy talked to the end of your breakfast. I do want to give kudos to our friends at Chartwell's. The Difference Maker Luncheon was fantastic. It was awesome. And we've made that shift from evening type events to those events during the day. I think it's one of the things I've heard about the Difference Maker Banquet is I'm on the clock. I appreciate that because otherwise I'm giving time away from family, right? And we're looking to honor people. We're not looking to take time away from family. So I think it was really good. We were there an hour and 15 minutes. Our jazz band played. They were incredible. So good. Chartwell's provided more food than we'd ever need. And it was all, they took care of it. That was a donation. Most of what we did with the Difference Maker program, including the billboards that will go up, 10 of them in the month of July to celebrate our people, is all paid for through donations from partners and local folks. And so we have 10 total, I think. Does that sound right, Cindy? 10 or 11 total sponsors?
Yeah,
10 who have provided support for that program. Just so grateful that we can celebrate our people. And so we'll make that an annual thing. That's my plan, that we'll just celebrate those folks. We celebrated 21 total difference makers from custodians to transportation folks to teachers. I mean, just a gamut of people. And it's interesting, the people that were there didn't want the recognition, and which speaks to the reason why they were there, right? And one of them, in fact, told Mr. Todd, I can't be out of the building, I gotta take care of my kids. That's literally what she said. And he looked at her and says, exactly why you're going, so go. And it's good. It was really, really good. So we have lots of people. And I do want to say this, anytime you recognize a small group, 21 is not small, but small in comparison to the 500 employees that we have, there's always the unintended consequence of leaving out the rest. And I do want to say publicly, we have hundreds of people that could have been recognized that day. Graduation on June the 1st, just remember that date. I think you all got your gowns, I think. I just want to say this, I will not be there. And it's not because I don't want to be there, it's because my son is graduating on the very same day at the very same time. And dad duty comes first. So I will be there. But I will be meeting with our seniors during graduation practice to give hopefully some words of wisdom to them. We'll see. I'm looking forward to that. So, and then June 4th, the Academic Excellence Awards, which I've been putting out to you just to make sure that's on your radar. Do want to give Terry a shout out for his work with intent to return stuff as we're trying to streamline what it means to be enrolled, and then registration that comes later. We're trying to say, hey, these kids are planning on coming back, so we can start working on our routing for the summer to be efficient. But the work that was put into that by Terry and his team was pretty heavy. And once we get now, the heavy work now is on our secretaries as they're knocking on doors saying, hey, like we need this information. And then the hard work goes to Greg and Daryl and their team as far as the routing, and then we're going to be in a much better place come registration time than I think we've ever been in. That's what I've heard. Am I right when I say that?
Absolutely. I mean, when he says Terry's been working hard, he means, I mean, Terry has helped us tremendously streamline a lot of things, and I appreciate him, his team. It's made Greg and Lou feel a lot better.
For sure, for sure. Okay, I think that's all I got. So, thank you guys.
For the good of the cause.
I think we had a pretty safe prom, and the kids I've talked to had a great time. It's that time of year, and I know we had the graduation parade, did we not? I was out of town. It's coming up.
It's coming up.
When is that?
The 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, graduation parade's the 24th.
Okay. But a lot of senior things happening right now.
We have music programs all over the place.
Field days.
Field days, elementary programs, middle school, choir program is Thursday. We have all kinds of things. If you don't have something to do any given evening between now and the end of May, there's probably something going on at the school that you could attend, and because these kids have worked so very, very hard on all these projects all year, and they enjoy performing, so to speak, and the more people that are there, the better. So.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
And this is you,
I
Jim.
won't make that motion.
Dustin, do your thing.
I'll second.
Chris, Ralphie made the motion, I guess. Chris.
Who else going tomorrow? I guess that's my question.
I'm going, but I'm going.